AI is here to stay. It's not new. It's been here for a long time. ChatGPT came along and it was open to everybody, including our kids and our grandkids, who then sent the message back to us that this is for real and it could be a lot of fun. And at the same time, there were lots of opportunities to point out that not everything that happened with AI was accurate, and that you could have some things put into AI which was misleading. But it kind of brought the whole world to recognize that it's not going away and that we're going to have lots of it in the future. Financial services, though, has been using it for decades. Different categories of it, some of it not as adept as others, but most certainly using AI. Today, though, what we're finding in a very short period of time is this culmination of not only the computational capabilities, the speed at which decisions can be made within a computer system, but also algorithms that have now been not only made by a human, but are now moving into that next generation of allowing the machine itself to make those algorithms that operate the system itself, to almost like train it itself in a way. But along with that is a database that is readable by that system. But it's a database that has to be set up to where it is a labeled database where everything in it understands and a computer can look at it, a system can look at it, and actually understand all the stuff that's in a database. We're now creating huge databases. And as we do that, the question is which database is somebody going to base their decision making on? And who's going to actually decide right and wrong within the systems itself? What are the biases? That's really where we hit with regard to the SEC. And the SEC has a question about whether or not those databases would provide an intentional bias that would give that particular broker-dealer and so forth an advantage in how they market their products. And now they're saying that you have to take out all of those possible biases within their most recently proposed rule. Now that rule that's coming around, it was controversial in the first place. It passed 3-2. My suspicion and what we're being told is that may very well be withdrawn. And it may go back because of all of the comments that have come from broker-dealers and so forth from around the country about just how difficult this would be and the fact that it's not necessary. Not only would the rule say that you have to eliminate any possible bias, and by the way, anybody here think that they don't have bias someplace themselves? There's none of us that don't have a bias someplace. The elimination of bias is not feasible, but what you try to do is to make it better than what it was before. If you have human bias and you can take it out and identify the human bias and perhaps set it up so that there are fewer of those, then you've done a good job. It's not perfect and it never will be. But to suggest that they're going to hold broker-dealers and those organizations to a higher standard than what humans are even capable of, I think is a mistake. And I think they're putting a huge amount of pressure on the organization, which, by the way, if they put that type of pressure on them, they reduce the availability for that product that might be available to the public. Makes it more difficult for the public to get that product in the first place. People are not stupid, but they need to have access to products. If you allow the broker-dealers and you say to broker-dealers, look, you're going to take all the biases out of this, it's going to cost more money. And that broker-dealer's not going to pay it. They're going to pass that on to a consumer. Fewer consumers are going to be able to afford those products themselves. So I know I'm kind of beating this around a little bit, but heads up, this is not a good rule, and it needs to go back in and be reworked. If not, we can't do anything about a congressional resolution of disapproval until after it's actually been published. So that would be the next step. So I will just first of all say that there is a problem in the rule. The rule needs to be fixed. And if they can't do it there, then we'll have to take the next steps. Let me go back now to for just a second, though, and then I'll quit because I know you've got time as well.
Oh, no.
Artificial intelligence, as I said earlier, is not going to go away. But it can mean a whole lot of things. First of all, if we don't develop it here in the United States and with our trusted allies, somebody else will. And the individuals who are capable of looking at all of the new approaches to AI they're going to go to wherever it's easiest for them to actually do the research and to implement their products. There are lots of places around the world that would love to have that happen. China's going to work on it because they see that the United States is ahead of them. Russia uses it right now. UAE has recognized that long term, this is a replacement for simply pumping oil or natural gas. And they are putting a huge amount of money into it, and they could very well be a very good friend, competitor, but a friend, and one that we should recognize as investing in AI today. They're doing an AI university. They're bringing in some of the brightest and smartest people and saying, if you want to develop your products, please come to the UAE. We'll help you. Now, when you have that type of a pragmatic approach because they understand how important it is, it makes us a better competitor as well if we take the challenge. So, number one, I want us to be the creators of the best AI, and whatever the best is today, 6 months from now, it will be archaic. So it's going to continue to do. This is a race that we can't afford to lose, but it's also a race that has no end in sight. So we want to develop AI. There are parameters that have got to be put into it. Some of them are very, very positive parameters that not only help the American people, but they also help the producers. Number one, intellectual properties have got to be protected. Number two, copies or copyrights and patents have to be protected, and they have to recognize where AI fits into that. If it was wrong to do it beforehand, simply bringing AI into the equation doesn't make it right. If it was okay to do a particular solution beforehand, using AI might make it even better. Those are the approaches that we're trying to take in the Senate. We're trying to do it on a bipartisan basis. Republicans and Democrats alike saying this is too important to become partisan in nature. So with regard to the development of AI, our defense of our nation is absolutely reliant on having the best AI available. Why? Because our adversaries are using it. Is it on the battlefield today? Yes, it is. It is in the battlefields, and some of the smallest countries in the world are using it, have already implemented it. War between Azerbaijan and Armenia back in 2000 was fought with AI on the battlefield. It's being used in Ukraine today, and China, Russia, Iran, North Korea all recognize that it is not going to go away. But there's another piece to this, and then I will shut up.
No.
The piece to this that I think the American people are going to enjoy is the quality of life improvements that will happen if we properly implement the capabilities of artificial intelligence in different areas of expertise. And I'm going to point out just one, and that is in healthcare. I believe that because we can make decisions so much faster using AI, and because we can access so many more larger databases of information on healthcare, biological databases, pandemic databases. Think about just the databases that we've got within our hospital administrative systems today about what worked and what did not work, what types of procedures worked, which ones did not work. I think in a very, very short period of time, in implementing artificial intelligence and the review of those, some of the brightest minds in our country have shared that we can cure the vast majority of cancers within a few short years. But we can do more than that, because if we do it correctly, we can actually help balance our own federal budget. Because if you reduce the cost of health care, you reduce the cost for Medicare and Medicaid while providing improvements in the quality of life for Americans with solutions to problems that are long-term. Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, those are items that long-term will cost a huge amount of money just to take care of people, but it doesn't improve their quality of life to put them in a nursing home. But if you can go after the root cause of those and delay the onsets, now the American people will see a quality of life improvement. We can do that using artificial intelligence in conjunction with the ability to identify early onset, and second of all, to look at what types of procedures or prescriptions, what types of biotics might actually be effective, and incorporate it more quickly than what we otherwise would. I'm optimistic about it. You've got to recognize that if we don't do it right, privacy can be of concern, but if we do this correctly and recognize that if taking somebody's private information and making it public is wrong now, using artificial intelligence does not make it right. That's the approach we need to take on this. I think at a bipartisan basis, working with Senator Schumer, Senator Young, Senator Heinrich, we're trying to get as much information out as possible on the implementation of AI and where it's going. But if we do it on a bipartisan basis, we'll get all of our committees to actually look at the areas in which artificial intelligence can be implemented and how it needs to be guidelined or regulated as well on a consensus basis. If we do that, this is where AI will continue to develop as rapidly as possible. So I know we wanted to talk about financial services, but this is bigger than just financial services. But we've got to identify the good and the bad, excuse me, within AI, and good regulations and bad regulations as well. And what you saw in the most recent attempt with regard to the SEC's regulatory approach, that was an example of bad regulation, and we should point it out. Thank you.
I appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll get out of here.
No.